Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, we continue today's Sugama. Okay. So yesterday we said Yatova imani bhutani jayante. Just a minute. Okay. Yatova imani bhutani jayante. In this statement, in this Upanishadic Vakyam, Tad Vijijñāsasva. May you know Brahman, may you desire to know. The desire to know Jijñāsa means, that will come in the first sutra. Desire to know means inquire to know. Because the desire automatically implies searching. When you desire, you look for it. You look for it means you search for it. So when you want, you look for it. So looking for it is automatically implied in desiring it. Therefore, Jijñāsa means you look for it, you search for it. Therefore, Tad Vijijñāsasva, search for it, look for it, for what? That which is Yatova imani bhutani jayante. This statement, this Upanishadic Vakya is giving a Brahma Lakshana. Brahma Lakshana means, Brahma Lakshana, this has gone wrong way. Okay. Brahma Lakshana generally means a description of Brahman, a definition of Brahman. But it is not a definition. It is a suggestion, an indication. Suggestion means how to look at, how to search for it, how to look at, to discover Brahman. So how to turn your attention, in what angle, in what direction, so that you come to discover Brahman. So Yatova imani bhutani jayante. All these beings, both living and non-living, that is the entire world, from whom they are born. So when you say the entire world, it includes time, space and object. Yesterday we discussed time. Time means how we understand the time. So from a common man's understanding, time, from the different aspects of the time, different way we define time. So try to understand the cause of the time. Cause of the time means that which is free from time but forms the basis for time. That which is free from space but forms the basis for the space. That means the space itself rises from whom? Itself is beyond space. Beyond space means beyond a location, beyond an area, beyond the distance, beyond the relations. Beyond relations, spatial relations. So that which is beyond the space, look for that. That means the mind which is working in terms of time and space has to be left out. Time is mind's function in a particular way. Mind works in a way of time, in a temporal way. What is the temporal way? Time is a point of time is one way. Length of time, that is a period of time, in another way. Cyclical time is another way. Relativeness is another way. These are the four ways which we can think about the time The mind functions in those 4 ways. So when you drop these 4 ways, time is transcended. That means your mind, which works through the time, in the form of the time, mind gets dropped. So the mind itself is born of that truth. The truth appears as a mind. The truth which is beyond time appears as a time. That means the truth which is beyond the mind appears as a mind. Time is mind. Space is mind. Subject object is mind. Yesterday we discussed time, space, and subject object. These 3 is the world. These 3 put together is the world. These 3 put together is the mind also. World and the mind are just synonymous. When we say the mind, it's not an individual mind. We mean collective mind, the total mind. Total mind means the entire state, entire waking state, the entire world is what we mean. So through the world which we are experiencing, both as a subject and as in the form of subject, in the form of object, in the form of time, in the form of space. So this is how we experience the world. Because I am part of a world. The I notion, the individuality is a part of the time, is part of the world. I notion or individuality is part of the world. So therefore, when we say the world, it includes my I notion. That means my individuality and my individual parts also, upadhis. What constitutes my individuality, like the body, sense organs, mind, intellect, all these also essential ingredients of my individuality. So they are also part of the world. So the body, sense organs, mind, intellect, including the I notion, the subject which is related to the world. Because it is knowing the world, while knowing the world, it is related to the world and it is a part of the world. Therefore, the subject, object, time and space, all this, the duality of subject and object. But the Atma is the cause of these 2. Means now in the world we experience a subject is knowing the object. Subject-object duality, knower known duality. Somebody, there is something which is knowing something else. So Atma is the truth of the universe. The truth of the world is beyond this duality of subject and object, knower and known duality. So the essential truth appears as subject and object, appears as knower and known. So the knower-known duality, what is the root cause? What is the truth behind the truth? Where do you look for? How do you look? You don't look for the truth of the world in a given place, because the place is included in the world. Not at a given time, because the time is included in the world. Not as a given object, because object is included in the world. Not as an individual, because that's also not in any type of relations, because all the relations are included in the world. Now you have to look for a non-relational absolute truth. That means, how can you think of that non-relational absolute truth? Where do you look for? How do you look for? The very looking shows, the very way of looking is a dropping of all these things. You look at it in such a way that the time gets dropped off, gets negated, space gets negated, subject-object duality gets negated, the knower-known duality gets negated. When all this negated, you land up in Brahman only. You are in Brahman, not land up. You are already in Brahman. The very negation culminates in being Brahman. You come to discover that, oh, is already Brahman. So, therefore he says, Tad vijijñāsasva, Tad Brahma. This statement is defining Brahman. Defining doesn't mean in a modern sense, in a normal sense. When you are describing a thing, you define a thing. So a definition describes a quality of a thing, a purpose, for what purpose it is useful. How do you define a thing in the world? Anything you define in the world by its characters, how it is, or how it is useful, where it is available, all these things. But here, Brahman is not defined in this sense because it doesn't have these features which can be describable features, relatable features, describable, relatable, perceivable. Brahman doesn't have perceivable, conceivable features, describable features, relatable features. Then how do you? By dropping these features which mind is thinking of. The mind which is used, our mind is used to think of anything, understand anything only in terms of these things: time, space, object. That means our mind can think and perceive, conceive only these relative categories. Therefore, the very mind has to be dropped, negated. Therefore, the definition of Brahman given here is only to turn your attention. You have to pay your attention in such a way that this time, space, object, subject, all these things get negated, and the Swatasiddham Brahma, a self-existing Brahma, remains. Remains means you come to see it as yourself. Therefore, tad vijijñāsasva, the mantra says, vijijñāsasva, try to know it, look for it, search for it, watch, observe to be able to discover it. Observe with an intention to discover. Observe with an intention to discover. Just to pay attention with an intention to discover. This is called jijñāsasva. Okay? With an intention to discover, observe. Jijñāsa, Brahma jijñāsa means pay attention to Brahman with an intention to discover. Brahman means, what is the Brahman? That's what we don't know where it is. We only know how to look at it, that's all. Where it is, how it is not a location, it's not a given object. But Upanishad gives a certain suggestion. That suggestion helps us how to look at it. Therefore, in what angle to look at it. So to observe in order to discover. Therefore, tad Brahma. So when you observe in this manner, what is suggested by this statement? This Brahma Lakshanam. Lakshanam means a suggestive statement. It is not a defining statement. It is a suggestive statement. Brahma Lakshanam. The Lakshanam is, one meaning of the Lakshanam is characteristic feature. The word Lakshanam in Sanskrit means a character. A characteristic feature is called Lakshanam. Chihannam. Another meaning of Lakshanam is an implication. Means a suggestion which doesn't describe it, but a suggestion, an angle which helps you to discover, which implies the truth, which implies that particular fact. It only gives you by its implication, but not by its definition, not by its description. This statement gives you Brahman not by its description, but by suggesting your mind to follow a particular way. In that way, by negating many other things which obstruct Brahman, by negating many other things that obstruct Brahman, it is giving a kind of a twist, a suggestion, or you can say it is an angle of looking, or it is a twisting your mind, turning your mind, not twisting, turning your mind, turning your attention. So that is called a Lakshanam. A Lakshanam means I don't know how to use, these are all Sanskrit words and Vedantic words. You can't translate exactly. You can say nearest translation is a suggestion. So it is giving a turning to your mind. So therefore take this statement, dwell upon it, and observe in what angle, in what direction this sentence is suggesting. This sentence is turning your attention. Where does it turn your attention? Go accordingly. It turns your attention a particular way. In the process, it negates time, space, subject, object, and everything. And you are there. You are Brahman. You don't reach Brahman. You discover that you are that Brahman. When everything is negated, you remain there. Where you remain, that is you. You don't discover Brahman. You are Brahman. You come to see that you are Brahman. Okay, therefore, iti brahmane jignasyatva muktam. Here, in this statement, he says Brahman is something to be desired or something to be inquired into, something to be investigated in order to discover. So, Brahma Jignasa means you have to investigate. That is a better expression. Look for, search for means investigate into. Brahma Jignasa, investigate into Brahman, investigate towards Brahman in order to discover Brahman. Okay, so Brahmano Jignasyatva Muktam Ihapicha Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now the Upanishad makes the statement, and Brahma Sutra also, the first sutra, tells the same thing, concurring, corresponding to that Upanishadic statement. Conquering that Upanishadic statements, Brahma Sutra also says, Athato Brahma Jignasa. Therefore, thereafter, an inquiry into Brahman. Athato Brahma Jignasa. The sutra means literally, therefore, thereafter, therefore, an inquiry into Brahman. Let there be an inquiry, let there be an investigation into Brahman. Okay, so iti ihapicha atato Brahma Jignasa tad anugunameva Brahma Jignasa prastuta. So this sutra is also presenting, corresponding to, in keeping with that Upanishadic statement. Now, yuktancha etatu, it is right. Nahi Jignasa. Purvapakshi is taking this statement in his own way. He understood in his own way, and therefore he is raising an objection. And he says, Upanishad said rightly, Brahma Sutra also said rightly. It is you, Vedantin, Siddhanti, is misinterpreting. Purvapakshi says, what Upanishad says is okay, what Brahma Sutra says is okay, but what you interpret seems to be somewhat different from what I have understood from the mantra. What I have understood from the mantra is something, but you seem to be telling something else, which doesn't go with the mantra. This is the objection we have to answer here. Now what Purvapakshi says, let him see. It is right. What Upanishad says is very much right. What did it say? Nahi jignasureva jignasyo bhavet. It is asking us to investigate into Brahman. Upanishad is good, Upanishad is right, only you have misunderstood. Who? Guru is misunderstood, Shishya is telling. You see, Upanishad is right, but Guruji, you have misunderstood, you are interpreting wrongly. What is that? Jignasureva jignasya bhave. That means it is asking us to investigate into Brahman. That means it implies that there is something called Brahman, and go and search for it. There is something called Brahman. Jignasurhi nama ajnata. So, nama ajnata tattva yas tattva jnanam ayupsati. Nahi jignasureva jignasyo bhavet. Here you see. The very seeker cannot be the sought. Jignasu, the very investigator, cannot be what is to be investigated. Because the investigator investigates into something which is other than himself. A scientist investigates into something, the object of his investigation is something which he is trying to understand. Therefore, there is an over-known duality, seeker and sought, investigator and investigated. He says the Upanishadic statement simply means you have to investigate into Brahman. Brahman is something other than myself. Jignasuri. Now, who is a Jignasu? One who doesn't know, wishes to know. One who doesn't know and wishes to know. Wishes to know something, he wants to investigate. Okay. So, Jignasurihi nama ajnata tattva yas tattva jnanam ipsati. He desires a tattva jnanam. the knowledge of a truth, an intuition of a truth. He wants an intuition of a truth. Okay, ato jignaso ratmanas sakashat binnameva brahma iti yuktam. Therefore, this shows that the Brahman that is to be investigated is different from oneself. If it is already myself, where is the need to investigate? If, see, oneself is known to anybody. Nobody tries to look for oneself, because it is me who is searching for something else. How can I search for myself? Can anybody search for yourself? Have you ever complained to police that you are missing? You, I'm talking about you. Have you ever given a complaint to police that I am missing, I am looking for the person? Please help me to search. I am looking for a person. Who is he? This person. I am missing. Nobody ever says. Nobody ever says that. Therefore, when Upanishad is advising you to do inquiry, definitely the thing to be inquired is the Brahman is something other than you. Therefore, anyatha hi athato brahmatmaikya jignasa iti sutram se. See, the sutra also tells Brahma jignasa. Investigate into Brahman. It is not telling brahmatmaikya jignasa. A desire to know your identity with Brahman. See, it is not advising. Purvapakshi is asking. The objection it is not Vedanta, it is not Siddhanti. The Brahma Sutra, first Sutra is telling inquire into Brahman, desire to know Brahman. It doesn't say desire to become one with Brahman. You becoming one with Brahman, that's what you desire. Atmaikya jignasa. See, Brahmatmaikya jignasa. Jignasa, desire to know Atman as united with Brahman, is one with Brahman. So, but you are interpreting as Atma becoming one with Brahman. There is no sutra, neither the sutra says nor the mantra says. Mantra says simply Brahman. Sutra also says Brahman. But you are giving some different meaning which is not found in the mantras. Jignasoratmaiva brahmachet. Okay. Why I am taking this interpretation, this stand? Because who Purvapakshi is continuing. Siddhanta is not yet started. When it starts, I shall tell you. Purvapakshi is continuing. If you are holding book, you could have understood. I don't know whether you are holding a book or not. If you are holding the book, you could understand. Every word I say, I don't skip a single word. Every word of it, I'll explain. Generally, those who have seen might have seen it. Every word I explain, I don't skip any single word. Some portion, one small paragraph we left out, I remember. At the end of the Sugama, I'll tell you, on the last day, I'll tell you that. One paragraph I left out, I remember even now. All the time I remember, I never forgot. I shall tell this because it's a little complicated. It's a technical, there's nothing, it's all Purvapaksha, wrong it is. But we have to understand the wrong becomes more complicated. Understanding right is easy. So therefore, I'll postpone it. We will explain it in the last day. Okay, last means just before Mangalacharana. Swamiji concludes with Mangalacharana, 2 shlokas. Just before the 2 shlokas, we'll tell this and conclude with the shlokas. Okay? So, every word I'm explaining, you can look for it. Jignaso Ratmaiva Brahmachet. If, as you Siddhanti say, Purvapakshi is addressing us. If, as you Siddhanti say, if Jignasus, the seeker's Atma is Brahman, and then if Jignasus, that the seeker's Atma is Brahman, then to whom the Vidya? See, it is a Jignasu who doesn't know the truth, who doesn't know Brahman. Generally, is an investigator doesn't know Brahman. That means ignorance pertains to him. He is ignorant and is trying to know Brahman. If the Brahman is myself, then you mean ignorance belongs to Brahman? You mean Brahman is Ajnani? Yeah, if you say Brahman is myself, then Ajnanam belongs to Brahman. That would be the implication. That would be the ultimate meaning. So therefore, Jignaso Ratmaiva Brahmachet, you see Swamiji's statement, Jignaso Ratmaiva Brahmachet, then Tasyaiva Vidya Syat. Then avidya belongs to Brahman. That means Brahman is ignorant. You mean Brahman is ignorant? Nava kasyachit. Or there is no ignorance to anybody. If I am really Brahman, then there is no ignorance, no investigation, no vichara, nothing is required. Because there can't be ignorance. Ignorance cannot pertain to Brahman. If I am Brahman, either two options. Either Brahman is ignorant, you have to say. In fact, some Dvaitins say the same thing alone. If I am Brahman, and then you see Brahman himself has an ignorance about himself. This is Advaitins talk. They make fun of us. Dvaitins talk like this only. Oh, Paramatma has an ignorance and he falls into his ignorance. After some time he come out of his ignorance. He says, how foolish is Brahma that he has got his own ignorance and he falls into the ignorance and later himself he recovers. Oh, our Paramatma, our Dvaitins Paramatma never has an ignorance, never falls like that. Your Advaitins Paramatma is ignorant Paramatma. He himself becomes a Jiva and suffers and later recovers after some time. And you don't know how long he will remain Brahma. Again he may fall into Ajnana. This is how they talk. Anyway, that's how it looks for a common man. For an ordinary man who doesn't understand, doesn't learn Vedanta from Guru Mukataha, he thinks like that. So a similar, it is near to their expression. It is a very close to their argument. Here our Purvapakshi is raising it. Okay. Therefore, Tatha, if Jigna, so if Brahma is my Atma, so it is the seeker who has an ignorance. So if Brahma is the identical with the seeker, then you have to say Ajnana belongs to Brahman. Or you have to say Brahma is already known, nobody has ignorance at all. Nobody has any ignorance, therefore Brahma is never unknown. Or you have to say Ajnana belongs to Brahman. You take either of the two. Only these two options possible, no third option. Purvapakshi says only these two options possible. Okay, therefore Jignas or Atmaiva Brahma or Tasyaiva Vidya. If Brahman is identical to myself, my Atma, then Tasyaiva Vidya, Avidya belongs to me alone, or there is no Avidya for anybody at all. No Avidya for anybody at all. Kasyas Tathacha Jignasa Anarambhayeva. Then in that case means either the ignorance pertains to Brahman or no ignorance. In either case, no jignasa possible, no self-enquiry is possible. Who should enquire for what? No ignorant. Ato nayukteyam bhati bhashya pratigna atmaikya vishayaniti. Therefore, this bhashyakara's pratigna means an enunciation, a proposition that atmaikatva vidya pratipattaye. To know that Atma is identical to Brahman is identical to Atma, Vedanta Jignasa begins. This statement of Bhashyakara is not in place. Okay, this is how the Purvapakshi says. Siddhanti answers, no, Brahmanaha eva Atmatva. He says, we mean it. Upanishads tells it, and it is the true. Brahman is identical to Atma. We don't move from that, we don't budge from that stand. Brahman is identical to oneself. Sarvatra hi Veda, because everywhere Vedanta says the same thing. Sarvatra hi Vedanteshu tasmad dvaye tasmad atmanaha. See, Upanishad always telling Brahman is not something separate, Brahman is Atma. Tasmad dvaye tasmad atmana akashas sambhutah. First see the Taittiriya if you watch. Since you have quoted Taittiriya Vakyam, I am quoting another Taittiriya Vakyam. See, first Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, it says. What is Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Having stated Brahma, from that Atman this world is born, he said. He is using the word Atma for the Brahman which is defined just in a previous sentence. The Brahman whose Lakshana, whose definition is given in the previous sentence, in the following sentence, same Brahma is referred as Atma. Tasmad Atmanaha. That Brahman which is Atman. It is identifying. He is identifying Brahman as Atma, one's own self. It is identifying Brahman as myself. So, Tat Satyam Sa Atma, Chandogyopanishad, Tat Satyam, the cause of the world is the truth. The cause of the world is the truth, and that is Atma. It is everybody's Atma. So, the same Brahman is talked about as one's Atma in these statements. There are a number of statements in Upanishads which talk of Brahman as one's Atma. Like this, etc. There are many statements like this. Ityevam brahmanyeva atma shabda prayogo dushyate. So the prayoga, the use, so the Atma word is used in the sense of Brahman. Brahman is put synonymous to Atma. See, the word Brahman is used as synonymous to Atma, and the Atma word is used identical to Brahman, synonymous to Brahman. In the Upanishads all over you can see. This is where the Dvaitins miss it. See, Dvaitins say, wherever the Atma word occurs in Upanishads, some places it refers to Jivatma, that is okay. But some places it is very clearly, in unmistakable terms, it refers to Brahman. Then they have no choice. They have to accept that the word Atma means Brahman. So, when the word Atma means Brahman, then Atma, the word Atma refers to Brahman without losing its primary meaning as oneself. They say, wherever the word Atma refers to Brahman, there they remove the Atma and take Brahma as something separate. Here they say, Atma word is used, but the Atma means Brahma, which is other than Atma. So we take it, Advaitins take, Atma word is referring to Brahman without failing to refer to Atma also. Because it's a basic reference to Atma, it retains. It's essential reference to Atma, it retains. And that word, while referring to Atma, it is referring to Brahman. That means it retains its meaning as an Atma, and that Atma is stated as Brahman. They say the word Atma, when it is used in the sense of Brahman, there itself they leave out totally Atma. How can, see, a word has got its primary meaning. So in a secondary meaning, in an implied meaning, it can be used in another sense without losing its primary meaning. Because the primary meaning has to be included and then it has to expand it. It may have an expanded meaning, but without losing its primary meaning. If the primary meaning is lost, then the word is not a word, the meaning is not the meaning. We take Advaitins, the word Atma retaining its primary meaning, in an implication we are only expanding its meaning. When the word Atma is used in the sense of Brahman, it shows the Atma is myself, and it is talking of myself as Brahman, myself as an infinite. It doesn't miss myself. Myself is retained. It doesn't give up. It doesn't drop or set aside myself. It retains the word, it retains the meaning as myself. That myself is taken in an expanded meaning. That is the largest meaning of infinite meaning. So therefore Atma becomes identical with Brahman. It is identified with Brahman. Expand in its expanded meaning. Okay. So they say Atma word is used in the sense of Brahman, it is very clear, which nobody can dispute, whether Dvaitin, Vishishtadvaitin, Advaitin or any other school. You look at the Upanishads, the word Atma is used in the sense of Brahman. Now the problem comes when the word Atma's main meaning, literal meaning, direct meaning is oneself. Now how can the word Atma be used in the sense of Brahman? Now, Advaitins, it is easy. That means when Upanishad is using the word Atma, which naturally refers to myself as Brahman, that means Brahman includes me. So, Brahman is another dimension of me, a larger dimension of me, which is unknown to me. I know only one smaller dimension of me, but the other dimension of me alone is Brahman. So this makes sense for Advaitins. But for some Dvaitins, the Atma word doesn't fit in, because for them Brahma is separate. Now, if Brahma is separate, Upanishad is using directly Atma word, where will you go? What will you do now? Now what they say is, yes, we accept the word Atma in the sense of Brahman. Then what do? We remove the meaning of Atma. We totally remove the Atma, remove the meaning of the Atma from it, and use the Atma word, Atma in the sense of others. It is something like, I just leave it, and the word I in English, I means myself. I, subject, first person. I word, we use it for myself, oneself alone. Now, can you use the first person to somebody else? If somebody uses, what does it mean? Means in that people, in that person, I am included, definitely. By excluding me, I can't use the word I. But they say you exclude the I and use the word I for others, excluding myself. Advaitins say when the I word is used, it may be used in the sense of others, like in we, plural. In plural, when we say we, I is not excluded. I is included in that. By excluding I, you can't use it. Similarly, the direct meaning of Atma cannot be excluded when the the word Atma is used as synonymous to, identical to Brahman. I repeat it, when the word Atma is used as identical to Brahman, as synonymous to Brahman, then what? The direct meaning of Atma, that is the Atma, cannot be excluded. When you include it, then it means I am the Brahman. Okay. When Upanishad is directly using the word Atma to describe Brahman, to refer to Brahman, it is using the Atma. Then you can't miss it. They have totally sacrificed the word Atma. They have destroyed the word. So they're totally taking a word. Now, the subjective word, which refers to myself, how can that word be used for exclusively third person, only for third person excluding myself? But they use it that way. They say we are interpreting. But any man with a common sense, this is an extreme interpretation. You just see the word Atma refers to myself. And if the word Atma is used in another sense, the me should be included in it. I can't exclude myself and interpret it. Then that means that Atma is included, but it's a bigger dimension is stated. This is what Vedantins take it. But the Dvaitins take it that the Atma word excludes aham, excludes myself, and talks of some third person, totally third person. This meaning doesn't fit in. Therefore, he misunderstood. Okay, I think we'll stop with this. We'll continue in the next. Since we are doing every day, we'll take only 30 to 40 minutes alone. I thought that we'll discuss every day one class just for 40 minutes. Okay, next, after this we'll do Vedanta Paribhasha for another 30-40 minutes. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat.